Hi, I'm Katie Brockway. I'm having an art show here today in Somerville at my apartment, and we're also having a music concert with my two roommates, David Garrett and Neil Dean. And here we are in my art studio. I'm lucky enough to have an art studio in my actual apartment, so this is where I work. As you can see, it's fairly small, but big enough to do large-scale paintings on this wall here. Here I have a couple of self-portraits. The green one was just sort of done randomly one night without any idea before I started it. Just a quick sort of painting. And the drawing was the night before I cut my hair because I used to have really long hair. So I wanted to do one last portrait with the long hair. And here's a sketch of my friend Molly. I'm working on a portrait of her. All right, so right here is my work table where I have all my oil paints, thinners, mediums, palette, and behind it I have some artwork. These landscapes were done in Paris. Well, actually, these three landscapes were done on site in a small town outside of Paris, and these other small works were done in my art studio in Paris. The works up here are studies for a larger painting that I have in the show today. And as you can see, I have a great window here, very lucky to have it. I'm not in a basement, so I've positioned this right here. Plenty of natural sunlight, and I've decorated it with roses. So here's my other workspace where I do mixed media work. I mainly work with ink and dry pigment and some charcoal. So I do drawings or smaller ink paintings here. I have some sketches here on the wall. These are for a new commission painting that I'm doing of Okemo Mountain in Vermont with the fall foliage. So I have yet to start that, but I have the studies that I did on site ready to go. So here I have two portraits on the wall done at the Territory, the art studios in Paris. And the first one is a self-portrait that I did. It's purely ink and watercolor. The second one is a portrait of my ex-boyfriend who I started out with charcoal and then continued to paint over it with watercolor, ink, gesso, and there's probably some raw pigment in there as well. So it's sort of a mixed media experiment type of thing that we were doing at the Territory at that time. So here's my latest large-scale oil painting, just finished in September. I worked on it for about 3 weeks, and it's done from a couple of watercolors that I did on site. It's a lake in Vermont, and it's pretty typical of painting I would do, sort of emphasizing on light and movement and more subtle colors. So here's the first large work of 2010 done in the spring, and this one was an idea I had. It's called Persevering the End, and the original idea behind it was that it's kind of like the apocalypse is happening and this girl is by herself in the woods. She's been like thrown back to nature, and there she is like in the cold. The model was myself. I had my then boyfriend take pictures of me in the woods in January, posing for that. And then from there I did a few studies and then continued on to this. And this tree in the back was always supposed to be there. It was part of the general composition and idea, but I changed it after our relationship ended to be the tattoo on the back of his shoulder, actually. It's pretty much exactly like his tattoo, but there's some extra branches in there. So now the painting has a dual meaning. All right, so this is the second large work of the year that I've done, and this is called Two Neighboring Solitudes. It's based off of a dream I had. Basically, that's my house, and that's my soulmate's house. But they're separate, but they're together, like they're across the street from each other in this beautiful field. And it's the idea that I've read a lot about in Rilke's letters about having two neighboring solitudes, like living side by side, and saluting each other's solitude. And it is, so it's also significant that it's on two panels. It's a diptych emphasizing the separation of the two houses or two soulmates, yet they are still meant to be together, but they just are their own separate entities. And that's the name of our show, actually, is Diptych, basically because of this painting, and also because I'm collaborating with Neil and Dave to do the concert, so it's sort of the idea of the duality, two things that are separate but meant to go together.